Welcome, valiant viewers, to today's episode of our Noble Lineage, here on Supreme Master Television. We have the pleasure of introducing to you Dr. Holly Roberts, a medical doctor, a mother of 3 daughters, an author of 10 books, who is also a vegetarian, and that is just the first part of her life. In her quest as a medical doctor to help people towards health, Dr. Roberts sought to understand the values motivating people in their life choices. This led her to embark on the study of world religions and philosophy. In addition to her medical degree, she obtained her master's in theology and her PhD in Asian religion and philosophy. Growing up in a family of 4 in Brooklyn, New York, in the U.S., Dr. Holly Roberts had 2 important realizations when she was 13 that would help shape the course of her life. For one, she realized she wanted to be a medical doctor. This came about when the teenaged Holly found herself in excruciating pain from appendicitis, and she was rushed to the hospital. When she woke up, the pain was gone. Looking up at her doctor, she knew then, that man saved my life. The wish to play such a beneficial role in people's lives stayed with her and motivated her on her career path. Dr. Roberts herself tells us about the second important realization she had as an adolescent.
I wanted to become a vegetarian when I was even younger, but my parents, like most parents, they thought you really needed animal products to be healthy. And finally, at the age of 13, I realized that when you were eating meat, it was the flesh of another being. And if there was gravy on the plate, that was another being's blood. And I thought, how could I take this animal's life just so I could have lunch? How could my lunch be worth more than an animal's life? And I decided I would just never eat a piece of flesh, meat, fish, chicken in my life. And, it was difficult at first because I was 13 and I didn't know anything about nutrition or vitamins. And people would say, well, where are you going to get your protein? Yeah. And I would just say, I don't know. In those days I didn't know it was healthy to be vegetarian. But I just knew how could I live knowing that my lunch meant life for another being.
Though her parents were not vegetarian themselves, they supported their doctor's lifelong decision. This in turn has influenced Dr. Roberts in raising her children to further a family lineage based on kindness and wholesome well-being.
We brought up our children vegetarian, and I would take my children to the produce department and say, look how lucky we are. All of these different colors, fruits and vegetables, and we can really appreciate them because we enjoy the colors and the beauty. Look how many things we have to choose from. If you base your meals around vegetarian foods, you garnish them beautifully. If you want to bring your children to a vegetarian diet, make your beautiful fruit salad and decorate it with kiwi and cherries and bananas on the side. Yeah. Make that the joy of the meal, or make your beautiful salads with all the different color green peppers, and make use of the beautiful colors of nature. And then you can always join it with hummus or with different dips and make that the center of your meal. And that's how you will bring your children to see the beauty of nature and this ability to exist on these vegetarian products.
Dr. Holly Roberts has served as a physician for over 30 years. She then left the clinical practice of medicine in order to write and grow spiritually. Trained and certified as both an obstetrician-gynecologist and a pathologist, she witnessed the joys that new life brings, as well as the tragedies that misguided life choices carry. She wanted to share with others how ahimsa, or nonviolence, could benefit humanity, and as an author she embraced the opportunity to share that message through her proverbial pen. Her books incorporate the genres of vegetarian nonviolence, among other topics, and guide people to the realization that ultimately it is through living a simple life rich in love and compassion that humankind will be able to sustain itself and our planet.
I love being a physician, but I felt that some aspects, like my heart really went out that if I would have patients who would come in and after years of obesity and diabetes and cholesterol-related heart disease would come in to me as a physician, and all I could offer them for all of these medical problems would be take this little pill. Yeah. And I knew that if they changed their lifestyles, they wouldn't have come to this point. How much could the little pill do? Mm-hmm. So I really felt I needed to write books. So my first book, Your Vegetarian Pregnancy. Yeah. I had many vegetarian patients who would come to me, but others who went to other physicians who said, oh, you had to eat meat. Yeah. So I wanted to write this book about going through pregnancy as a vegetarian. Mm-hmm. Now, after I wrote the book, I wrote it and no publishing companies would take it. It was actually a spiritual vegetarian pregnancy book. To me, being vegetarian is all spiritual. Yes. And finally, Simon & Schuster took it. Uh-huh. And if I can say, I think it was on a path of divine intervention that they took it.
Dr. Roberts tells us about the wonders that enabled her first book to be published.
A Catholic nun who I didn't know asked me if I would lecture at her church, and I said, of course. And she had written several books. And I said to her, her sister, no one wants to take my spiritual vegetarian book, and would you read it and let me know what you think? Because she wrote spiritual books. And she said, oh, I'm going on silent retreat for a month, and yes, I'll read it. A month later, she called me up and she said, I read your book and I loved it, particularly the spiritual parts. And I hope you don't mind, but I read passages of it to my friend whose daughter works for Simon & Schuster. And they would like to read it. And I made a copy of my manuscript, mailed it to Simon & Schuster. When I went to the main post offices in Manhattan, there was a postal worker, an African-American woman, and she saw that I had a manuscript to Simon & Schuster, and she knew what it was. Wow. And she said to me, she didn't know what my book was, but she said, I will pray for you. Wow. And I sent the books to Simon & Schuster, even with no literary agent, and 2 weeks later they called me up and they voted unanimously to publish it.
That's a miracle.
And it was just a miracle, just through religious channels. Yeah. So I have many facts about nutrition and vitamins and iron deficiency and soy products. But Simon & Schuster let me put in little passages, like at the beginning of each chapter. And this is a month-by-month analysis of what you should do in pregnancy.
To guide the mother
to guide the mother with all of her nutrition. Okay. But in my little passages, I wrote things like, in pregnancy, you will strive to optimize every nutrient in your diet and to eliminate every toxin from your food. You want to consume only what is best for your baby. Let the nutritional information you find is conflicting and narrow in scope. And then I end that by saying, and as this tiny life within you grows, both you and your baby will be blessed, because you will have attained the knowledge and the insight to create your new life without taking life. And I geared it to all sorts of vegetarians at whatever level they're at, so I wanted to reach everyone. And even just one more passage at the end, towards the end of the pregnancy, I say, and you will teach your child to be honest, fair, and kind, so that it will grow to respect itself and others. You will share with your child your vision of kindness and your vegetarian principles, so that it will revere and respect all living creatures.
Yes, including animals.
Oh, and all living creatures, yes, including animals, yes. All those beings with whom we share this planet. Mm-hmm. And so that was my first book. And knowing that it got to a major publisher through these spiritual channels, it really inspired me just to continue writing.
And Dr. Roberts has indeed continued to write, to date, a total of 10 books. In the process, she has founded her own publishing company.
I started my own publishing company called Anjali Press.
Okay.
Anjali Press is the Hindu sign. When a Hindu will bow to you and put his or her hands together, that is a sign of praying to the essence of God within you. Mm-hmm. And Hindus believe that God is within each person and each being, and within all of creation. My husband has been my editor through all of these books.
That's correct.
And through Anjali Press, we self-publish all of my further vegetarian and philosophical books. At times, I've met people like very devout Christians and devout Baptists who have found my book and said, "Oh my goodness, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. I'm vegetarian. I don't want to harm any beings." And people will say to me, "What are you, Buddhist?" And now they can take my book and say, "No, I am Christian."
Christian.
Yeah.
Vegetarian Christian.
Yes.
Please visit www.anjalipress.com for more information about Dr. Holly Roberts and her 10 books, which include Your Vegetarian Pregnancy, Vegetarian Christian Saints, The Vegetarian Philosophy of India, Doctrine of Inner Peace, and The Health of Merciful Living. Dr. Holly Roberts' books can also be purchased on Amazon.com and BN.com. Next week on Our Noble Lineage, we'll continue our show with the inspirational Dr. Holly Roberts. Please join us on Sunday, December 18, as Dr. Roberts shares her fascinating discoveries about early Christianity while writing her second book, Vegetarian Christian Saints. And now, please stay tuned for Between Master and Disciples, up next on Supreme Master Television. May health and happiness be your blessed companions in life.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/NL